Future Grotnip here. Since the release of this episode has been delayed for so long, I wanted to say a few words before actually diving into the topic of the day. I have unfortunately been unable to work on my Warcrow content for a little while. There has been quite a lot of real life things keeping me more busy than I would like. Nothing dramatic, just the normal stuff, but too much of the normal stuff, if you know what I mean. Despite this channel often feeling to me like I'm shooting these videos in a dark room, as is the case quite literally right now, just for my own amusement, the data and the interactions that I've had with you people shows me that there are actually people interested in what I do and who are watching at least some of the stuff that I'm making. This makes me very happy and it gives purpose to what I'm doing, but it also means that when I'm unable to perform in a way that I think all you people deserve, it gives me stress and pressure to do better. At the same time, as those who have watched my very first video know, this is supposed to be fun, this is supposed to be a hobby, and this is supposed to be a way for me to wind down after all the stuff that the real world can throw at all of us. So I'm trying to not take too much stress from this, and I'm just happy that I'm back here doing what I do, providing you with Warcrow content with minimal artistic effort put into this stuff, speaking in a dark room into a microphone that doesn't sound all that great. But hey, everyone who is still watching the stuff that I do, I really appreciate every single one of you, and I hope that my videos can be a small part of your enjoyment about on the amazing hobby that is Corvuspellis Warcrow. And now, with the mushy stuff out of the way, let's proceed to the topic of today and let's talk Warcrow, let's talk Northern Tribes, let's talk Selika. Greetings to you all, fellow travelers. This is Grotnip, welcoming you all back to the logbook of a simple lindworm traveler. In today's episode of the Forces of the Northern Tribes series, we're going to be taking a look at Selika. So, who is Selika? Selika is a named Varank Tattooist of excellent renown. She is known to be the strong silent type, and in the background it's said that she attends conversations usually by listening and only speaking out when she has something of extreme importance to say, and usually she likes to let her actions do the talking for her. What's very special about Selika is the fact that she's wielding a magical bow, the Bow of Claws, which she has carved from a single piece of driftwood of mystical origins that she found washed up on the shore some time ago. And what makes the Bow of Claws so magical and so powerful is that when Selika lets loose an arrow from this weapon, the projectile multiplies mid-air into a hail of arrows that then pelt the foes of the Northern Tribes. And this, as we are about to see, is very much communicated in the profile itself. Let's talk about Selika's basic stats next. This picture for the card has been taken from the fan-made Warcrow army builder, as is the case with most of the pictures that I have shown so far. Coming in at 30 points, Selika is not exactly expensive, but nor is she cheap. She's competing with the likes of, for example, the Prime Warrior, or a full unit of Tundra Marauders or Escort the Executioner. So shooing her into a list isn't going to be a simple job, but at the same time, if you have the rest of your list covered or you are looking to build one of the combinations that Selika is part of out there, you should be able to find the points for her. Unfortunately, Selika does not provide any command tokens for your force. So basically, what she is capable of achieving on her own or as a part of a unit is all the value that you're going to be getting out of her. There is no fail-safe for you to fall back to say, hey, at least I got some command tokens out of her, even if she didn't do much otherwise. So keep that one in mind. At movement 3-4 and a 10 stride charge, Selika has the standard Varank movement value available to her. The charge distance of 10 shouldn't be coming up all that much, since Selika is very much a skirmisher and a ranged combatant, but the 4-3 movement is quite nice because it allows Selika to quickly reposition around the battlefield in search for new targets when fighting solo. At 3 wounds, Selika isn't quite as tough as many of, for example, the orc characters that we have access to, but at the same time, she's no evoker either, so something middle of the road for a character's wounds attribute, I suppose. With an orange and a yellow for willpower and a morale of 2, I'd say that Selika has a decent willpower and morale stats. I doubt that you will be activating her so many times in a round usually that the morale cap of 2 becomes a problem, and the orange and the yellow means that she's not exactly susceptible to willpower targeting effects, nor is she going to be able to face off against the most powerful courage targeting attacks out there either. As a named character, Selika is obviously availability 1. The fact that she is a Varank means that she will be able to benefit from abilities like the unnamed tattooists breathe in the spirit of the totem, but unable to make unit of orc specific buffs, like for example Orc Warrior's Honor or Experience and Rage on the Prime Warrior. When it comes to fielding Selika as a solo model, Ambusher is very much the enabler that allows her to do her thing. As we are about to see, Selika is quite potent a ranged attacker as well as a model that can dish out a great deal of crowd control under the right circumstances, and Ambusher means that you have access to these tactical capabilities anywhere you want at any given time. So when running Selika solo, you are looking to keep her out hidden in ambush, waiting for the right time for her to appear and start letting rip with the bone of claws. Sometimes this might actually be a way of alpha striking your opponent and disturbing the tempo of their operations, but at other times you might be looking to leave Selika in reserve, so to speak, and then use her later on, perhaps to capture an objective while at the same time taking pot shots at enemies further away. Technically, Selika is capable of joining Varank infantry units, and obviously if you are running a War Alliance character, Alborg or Alvard, then all the Orc infantry become joinable options also. But I really struggle to see any point in attaching Selika to anything except the Ice Archers. She really doesn't do much of anything for any other units, so why would you spend 30 points on a model that does not bring any command tokens for extremely minor buffs on those other units when the Northern Tribes has access to such a plethora of excellent support and officer options. So yes, the card says join infantry Varank, but read this as join ice archers effectively. As befits a ambushing skirmisher, extremely lightly armed solo character, Selika has a conquest of 0, so she is capable of taking over entirely undefended objectives, but if there is any enemy presence out there, even conquest 0, she's unable to capture objectives, and that's really not her job now, is it? She's there for attacks of opportunity and other skirmishy stuff, not for breaking through the heart of the enemy defenses. Speaking of skirmishing and ranged attacks, let's take a look at Selika's primary mode of offense, her ranged attack. At range of 18 strides, Selika has extremely long range when it comes to performing her bow shots. I think this is the joint highest range of any ranged attack in the game as of the release of this video. Unfortunately, Selika's ranged attack does not offer the option of pushing for extra performance, so making use of that morale to enhance the attack is off the table. When using her bow, Selika is rolling a double orange and a triple yellow set of dice. This is extremely high an amount of dice to roll, which means that she does have a high theoretical ceiling of 5 successes per attack, but the average is actually pretty low at only about 2. The presence of double orange and especially the triple yellow does, however, mean that Selika has access to a tremendous amount of special symbols, and in her case the important threshold to hit is going to be 2 specials that she needs to trigger her double special switch that inflicts the slowed state upon the target of the attack. And if the dice calculator that I'm using, the Fightbird app, is to be believed, you are supposed to have about 96% of a chance of accessing this double switch, so pretty close to damn automatic right there. Why this switch is so important is not only because it allows some form of crowd control, not that much different from that of the standard tattooist or the ice archers for that matter, but it also grants access to the secondary switch that Selika has. As long as the enemy is slowed, she is able to convert her hollow successes into automatic wounds. And in Warcrow you are able to trigger each, and indeed you have to trigger each switch one at a time, which means that if and when you get at least those 2 specials, you're first able to apply slowed to your enemy and then start applying automatic wounds via the hollow successes. And here the yellow dice are actually another strength of this roll. The yellow dice have 2 faces out of 8 with hollow successes on them, as opposed to the single face that the orange and the red dice have. So with this dice set you are likely to get at least a single hollow success, and you have the high ceiling of 5 available to you. This is what I would consider to be the more impactful way of dealing damage for Selika. Pushing damage through enemy defenses with average 2 successes isn't going to be all that amazing. We have access to far higher offensive values. some even with ranged capabilities. But getting automatic wounds through to tough targets that are hard to reach, that's what Selika really brings to you. One of the few instances in which I was able, for example, to take out Nuada, who's a menace my regular gaming buddy likes to field, was actually dealing some wounds to Nuada in my defensive role, and then using Selika to appear out of ambush to use automatic wounds to wipe the smirk off the Elven General's face. So high value targets that don't want to get auto wounded are the prime game for Selika's ranged attack. As already stated in the backstory part of this piece, Selika's bow is actually a powerful magical artifact, and when she draws full power from her driftwood weapon, the ranged attack of Selika's turns into a full action skill called the Bow of Claws. As a long action skill, you cannot combine Bow of Claws with movement. Usually this isn't going to be a problem, especially when you are delivering the first strike with Selika, since you coming out of ambush gives you the opportunity to place her in a position from which she can take her shot, and the 18 strike range means that there is plenty of space for you to work with between the minimum distance that you have to keep from all enemies in the case of ambushers, that being 10 strides if they can see you, and the 18 strides, that is the absolute maximum range of this ability. When you choose to employ Bow of Claws, you get to perform a standard ranged attack against a target you have chosen, with nothing extra special there, except that your target automatically receives the slowed state. As we saw previously, Selika is extremely likely to inflict this load state anyway, so this isn't that big of a deal usually. What's cool and what's powerful about this long action skill, however, is the fact that you do get to choose two secondary targets within 8 strides of your original target shot, and you do not need to have line of sight to these secondary targets. Once you have chosen your targets that the multitude of arrows fired by the magical bow will hit, then you will get to roll a triple yellow ranged attack against the select units, and you will have access to your full suite of switches from Selika's ranged attack. And as you can see, the triple yellow effectively means on average 1 and maximum of 3 successes, which isn't that great. That can inflict some damage against a weak enemy rolling bad on their defense, but the more important part is that there is a high likelihood of about 87% that you will trigger the slow inducing double special switch on your secondary target, and this activates the hollow success switch that inflicts automatic wounds. So the most realistic situation when you are using these secondary attacks of the Bow of Claws is that you are actually looking to inflict the slowed state and then maybe ping an automatic wound or even 2 on the target. Passing through the enemy's block-based defense on a triple yellow isn't going to be happening a lot of the time. There is a little bit of a conundrum on what happens if and when the first target is destroyed. Kudos for Obiscus in bringing up this interaction. I don't think it has been thoroughly answered in an FAQ yet, but that's something that I also asked in my latest FAQ email. So hey, maybe we will see something about this going forward. Last thing to note is that as the Bow of Claws is a full action, long action skill that will prevent Selika from moving after taking her shot. So when you are ambushing her in to employ this skill, choose a spot that you are comfortable leaving her at, and if the game is further along and you would need to move Selika, or there would be value in moving Selika between ranged attacks, then you need to make the decision on which is more important to you, hitting those secondary targets or advancing Selika and simply taking a standard shot at a single target. So keep these conditions, these limitations in mind when using this ability. But at the same time, it has to be said that this can feel utterly terrifying to your opponent. If you are looking to slow down the tempo of the game, there is nothing stopping you, for example, for using your very first activation of the game, ambushing Selika in to capture a middle objective, and then raining arrows, slow inducing arrows upon the front line of the enemy, maybe even winging some of those solo characters moving among their ranks in the process. When it comes to the melee attack of Selika, there really isn't much to say. Triple Orange isn't as terrible as it could be on a character like this, but also getting on average 2 and at maximum 3 successes with absolutely no switches whatsoever is extremely weak a melee attack. So you are not going to be attacking with Selika in melee unless the situation is truly desperate. I'm talking about a exceedingly weak enemy that you have somehow gotten engaged with, detaching from you, and you're choosing to perform an opportunity attack, or maybe you are charging at something towards the end of the game in order to get you to a objective, and you are looking to inflict a little bit of damage and push something away from the said objective, but again, exceedingly rare an occurrence. Don't think about Selika's melee attack, I don't either. Then we come to her defense roll, and it's actually not half bad. With an automatic block, a blue and a black dice, you are averaging 2 blocks per roll, and at 3 wounds, Selika isn't going to die even if she lets a success or even 2 slip past her defenses. So taking her out isn't going to be trivial. She's not sturdy by any means, but that's not really something that we are expecting out of a ambushing skirmisher anyway. So I think that for me, Selika's defense goes down as surprisingly decent. She also has a single special switch that allows her to displace 3 if she is engaged. As the black dice is rather adept at providing you with special symbols, and the blue dice has access to quite a decent amount also, you should be able to trigger this switch at least once when defending, and this should allow Selika, who has become entangled in melee, to disengage so that she can flee the scene or maybe shoot the enemy that just tried to perform a melee attack against her. Remember that since this switch does not include the closure that Selika has to displace to disengage, she can actually, if you get several special symbols, use her first disengages or first displaces, to re-engage with the target that she just took an attack from, or for that matter another enemy unit close by, and then you can chain together a bunch of displaces this way, always ending your last displays engaged so that you can activate the next one, and then using the last one to really disengage from your enemy. But this should usually be more cute than good. If Selika is getting attacked, if she's triggering her switches, the situation probably isn't optimal for you anyway, and survival is more paramount than getting to perform some cheeky quote-unquote free movement. That's all she wrote about Selika's solo profile. Now let's continue down to her attached profile, and let's start with the basics. While technically Selika is a support who can join Varank infantry units, in reality she is basically a ice archer officer. The only unit that I think you ever want to attach her to, unless the circumstances are really weird, is the Ice Archers, and when joining them she effectively becomes an officer. This is pretty great since you get to essentially add a model to the unit. You will raise the cap of casualties that the unit has to suffer before their performance is impaired, and you also get to keep your higher conquest value for longer. If the unit gets wiped out and there isn't enough damage to take Selika down also, then she gets to detach and continue the fight on her own. Selika adds a point of conquest to the Ice Archers, but you do need to remember that unlike, for example, the Tundra Marauders, the Ice Archers do drop a point of conquest at half casualties, at which point Selika will still help them maintain some relevance as a capturing and or holding unit, but it's at half efficiency at that point, so not all that great either. Unfortunately, it would seem that our strong and silent type tattooist isn't the most inspiring of leaders when it comes to taking charge of a unit of ice archers, since Selika actually does not confer her willpower on the unit, which is instead stuck using their own weak single orange willpower, which can prove problematic under certain battlefield circumstances. For example, when it comes to passing especially difficulty 2 willpower checks, intimidating checks, trying to interact with feat or scenario objectives that require willpower tests and so forth. Seleka does, however, provide her unit with an extra point of morale, which is nice. It allows her ice archers to activate more often, endure more combat related stress, and as we are about to see, Selika has access to a powerful passive skill that requires the unit take stress, so these can be pretty important. Where Selika truly shines is when she provides her ranged attack unit with additional offensive punch. When it comes to direct damage increases to the attack roll, Selika does provide her unit with an automatic success as well as an additional orange dice, meaning that when she joins a unit of ice archers, the unit is rolling a red, triple orange, a yellow, and getting an automatic success also. She also provides her unit with a hollow special switch that allows the unit to heal a single wound. This switch isn't going to be all that impactful on the ice archers, I'm afraid, since the unit is made up of models with only 2 wounds, so you need to have suffered exactly the right amount of wounds every time in order to there to be a wounded ice archer to be healed, and the maximum that you will ever heal thanks to this switch is going to be 1. That is until we see second wave of releases one day and we get more ranged units for the northern tribes, but let's fantasize about that stuff some other time, shall we? The orange dice not only provides the ice archers with extra damage, but it also makes it so that they are more likely to get special symbols that can empower their crowd control effect, causing switch ability. And remember that the ice archers in their full combat form, their basic unit profile, are capable of dishing out these slowed states to units around their target also. The biggest boost to the unit's damage when it comes to ranged offensive output that Selika provides is, however, her passive skill Blue Arrow's Rain. This skill is worded extremely oddly, and it has required some clarification on CB's part for players to know how to actually play this one, but the basic gist is that Selika can once per activation force her unit to endure a point of stress to do a second ranged attack against a target that they have already performed a ranged attack against during their current activation. So this essentially means that under the under the right circumstances, that is, Selika can more than double the damage output potential of an ice archer unit. Not only does she provide them with additional symbols and an additional dice, they will also get to fire twice. And this is actually usually going to be even more than a doubling of their offensive output, since you are going to be rather likely to inflict slowed state upon your target on your first shot, which means that the ice archers can then leverage their Blue Arrow's passive to inflict yet another automatic wound against their enemy on the second shot of their activation. The only real problem when it comes to the Blue Arrow's Rain is the fact that we are using this ability on a Morale 2 unit, and essentially that makes it impossible under normal circumstances for Selika to leverage this ability twice in a single round unless there is some way for you to mitigate the stress on the ice archers between shots. Because even if you are simply activating the unit for the first time and you're taking an activation token, leveraging Blue Arrow's Rain will cause a point of stress on you. And now if you're looking to activate the unit again, you will get that all important second stress simply for activating, which means that no Blue Arrow's Rain for you. And if you are having to rest in order to clear the stress in order to get that shot again, well, now you are effectively using 2 activations to get 2 shots, so you aren't getting the same benefit out of it. This is one of the main reasons why I don't consider Selika to be such a slam dunk inclusion even when I choose to run the Ice Archers, because you are at the end of the day investing quite a lot of points for a trick that you can at most usually perform only once per round. As a proper quote-unquote officer, Selika also provides some defensive benefits to the unit she chooses to lead. This materializes into an automatic block added for each roll, which I think is quite something that Northern Tribes units appreciate. Units like Ice Archers that have a so-so defensive role but plenty of warm bodies in the unit can get quite a nice mileage out of getting this automatic block on each of their defense roll, reducing incoming damage, especially from the lower end attacks that may even bounce off thanks to the presence of Selika. She also grants her unit a defensive switch that allows her to remove a state of her choice from her unit when the unit rolls hollow specials. And as the defense roll of the Ice Archers is quite heavy on blue dice, which are the defensive dice most likely to provide you with hollow specials, this could allow you to undercut the effects or the attempts of the enemy to impose states such as frightened, disarmed, slowed, or vulnerable on the Ice Archer unit. Nothing groundbreaking, but something useful anyhow. And with that, let's take a end analysis look on Selika. Selika is really an interesting model in that she offers the Northern Tribes commanders two very distinct, very different, and at the same time very non-compatible roles that she can fill. When fighting alone, Selika can act as a deadly ambusher who can appear out of nowhere to capture backline objectives and or rain slow inducing an automatic wound, inflicting arrows upon a bunch of enemy units. Or she can act as a pseudo officer, taking charge of a unit of Ice Archers, turning them into a apex ranged combat piece on the or tactical element on the field of battle. These roles are, however, mutually exclusive usually, because when you are designing your list, you really don't want to end up in a situation where you are bringing both Ice Archers and Selika and then choosing to ambush Selika because now you have the Ice Archers there not being able to contribute as much as they would have been able to had their force multiplier piece been with them. Also, if you are bringing a unit of Ice Archers and Selika and another character that is supposed to join the Ice Archers, it's pretty hard to find a list type where you can simply choose, okay, this time around I'm switching it up, I'm putting Selika in with the Ice Archers and the other character is going to be fighting solo. You are probably going to be losing some value there, so it does feel a little bit either or, but not both under most circumstances. I was really big on Selika when she was first released, and I for a while afterwards started every game with my first activation being Selika ambushing in and taking a bow of claws shot into the heart of the enemy formation. But the more I have played Warcrow, the more I have come to feel that the action starvation that using Selika so much can inflict upon the Northern Tribes can lead into a situation where employing her becomes self-defeating. If you are using a bunch of activations to do moderately powerful ranged attacks against your enemy, that means that you are not advancing your other pieces, you are not bringing muscle to the front line, you are not capturing and holding objectives with your heavyweight troops. So yes, you might be causing an inconvenience to your enemy, you might be even hurting something that they value highly, but the trade-off in what you are paying as the opportunity cost usually isn't probably going to be worth it anyhow. So I don't think that Selika is something that you need to be running in every list if you want to be competitive going forward. But at the same time, she can be a powerful solo piece to include so that you can keep your regular opponent on the edge. Or if you are looking to do the full Apex arrow fighter, bow fighter type combination with the ice archers every once in a while, that's something that you definitely can go for. Just remember to support the ice archer unit properly if you go down this route. You are paying 55 points for a unit that can't really fight in melee in this configuration, and that is extremely susceptible to morale shocks for what you are paying for them. And since the unit isn't made up of orcs, the evoker can't return them to the battle via delegate of the ancestors should they choose to follow their faint hearts and run away from the fight. Okay, that was my thoughts on Selika. Safe travels everyone, and hope to see you again soon.